My name is Alix. I'm the district manager here in Scottsdale for Insperity. Insperity is a PEO that started in Kingwood, Texas in 1986. So as a professional employer organization, Insperity is there to help entrepreneurs with all things related to being an employer. So as you know, Matt, most employees need to get paid. They probably want to have some type of an insurance. They want maybe a career track, which includes things like training and development. And then there's a whole host of compliance things that business owners and entrepreneurs have to be familiar with. Tax withholdings, interview compliance within state regulations, and then all of the kind of do's and don'ts of being an employer and the risks that come along with that. Insperity's job is to stand shoulder to shoulder with entrepreneurs and help them navigate those waters so they can execute on whatever their value proposition is. We have many startup companies that were very, very early on with them. And the way we're involved with them at that stage is maybe sharing some of our office resources with them so they can do some interviewing. Sometimes it's doing pitches to accredited investors, and we'll host them at our offices because many times real estate like that's very expensive. But really, Matt, for us to deliver on what we do, it really begins when they are planning on hiring their first employee. If they get to the point where they need to make a job offer to someone, you're going to want to generally have a solid job description in place. You're going to want to be able to answer questions of new employees, like what type of retirement services are available? Are there benefits available to me and my family? How to do maybe a compensation survey to know kind of how to pay your people and things like that. So definitely pre, and then during, once they hire that first employee, and then helping them grow to get as far and as fast as they want to go. I'll give you an example of a gentleman that we met probably 12 or 13 years ago, literally met at his house. He had an idea. He was a retired lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and he wanted to start a firm serving the needs of government contractors as it related to training test pilots, because that was his specialty and that's what he wanted to do. So we helped him from the very beginning set up all the things he needed to do personnel-wise. And over 12 or 13 years, he had grown to a company that started out in his home with just himself to probably a little over 300 employees. For me, it culminated at the Biltmore years later when he was being given a Small Businessman of the Year award. And it felt so good when he got up and said, hey, listen, I can sleep well at night because I have Insperity that helped me from the beginning, helped me navigate all the ins and outs of the things that have to do with employees. So that was kind of a particular nice success story as far as helping someone from beginning all the way through to, I believe he's liquidated and sold out to private equity at this point. So kind of a nice story. For those that have a very clear vision of what they want to do and they need to attract and retain highly educated, highly compensated people, we're typically a good choice for them. Now we have two different paths. We have a traditional path that I think is a little bit more economical and, as you had mentioned, a little bit more self-service, but it comes with the culture and the background that Insperity has in limiting liability as it becomes important to an employer. And then we also have the co-employment model, which I think is a step up, which helps them do everything from beginning to end with employees. I believe in building any great business, especially with the end in mind. If you're thinking about private equity taking you out or selling the company or what have you, building a really sound foundation is important. So for those entrepreneurs that think they can do it tomorrow or they'll do it down the road, you certainly can, but you might be put in a position where you got to go back to the beginning and do everything like job descriptions. And how are you going to categorize certain positions in your company? How are you going to set forth a policy for raises or training and developing your people? So I think the more thoughtful business owners think about the people strategy in their business and how that leads to mitigating risk as it relates to being an employer. And I'm talking about fines and lawsuits, because as you probably know, we've become a very litigious society. If you drive down any major thoroughfare, probably more than 50% of the billboards on the highway have to do with an attorney. general information on Insperity.com, they can certainly do that. And if they call someone in our corporate headquarters, that gets routed to whatever city that entrepreneur works in. So we have 100 offices across the country. If it's related to some of the work you and I do here in Arizona, I would have them call my cell, which is 602-290-2900. And business owners today, they communicate in many different ways. Some are text, some are cell phone, some are email. So I'm always very careful to ask, hey, how do you like to communicate? But I think reaching out to me that way initially is best. And then we just have a conversation. Like I said, I try to take them through a process of discussing attracting, retaining, motivating, developing, and rewarding your people. And if we can get through those 5 questions, it usually leads us, to common sense next steps.